Chapter 38-29. Immediately following that, clang, a sound was heard. Her profound aura fluctuated as it gradually calmed down. The bewitching red light was still shining brightly, swaying her alluring figure. Everyone's sight was fixated on Yiqing Luo without blinking. They were all looking forward to witnessing the scene of a young lady breaking through the sage profound realm and stepping into the spirit profound realm. Stepping into the spirit profound realm and becoming a god was already a historical scene. Not to mention. And it was a young lady of Yiqing Luo's age. It could be said that in the entire earth boundary, they had never seen one. When the profound glow which enveloped Yiqing Luo's surroundings started to dissipate, their eyes were staring at Yiqing Luo without letting go. But, when Yiqing Luo retracted her hand from the dead tree and opened her eyes, everyone's surprised and shocked expression froze on their faces. Did they see wrongly? Yiqing Luo's surrounding aura. Sage profound realm. But the aura of sage profound realm. There were quite a number of cultivators from large forces present with extremely high cultivation. They could easily sense Yiqing Luo's aura after her advancement. Most importantly, Yiqing Luo's surrounding sage profound aura was very unstable. This meant to say, Yiqing Luo's breakthrough this time was not the so-called stepping into the spirit profound realm, but from the sky profound realm to sage profound realm. Everyone's expression became extremely complicated. Each of them looked at each other, unable to believe their own eyes. How could it be possible to break through to the sage profound realm? She was obviously so powerful. She was so powerful that they felt that only this woman could be a match for the Dizun. But her profound grade was actually so unexpected. Previously on Yiqing Luo, they indeed only sensed an extremely weak profound aura. At that time, they thought this was just Yiqing Luo deliberately disguising her own strength. Unexpectedly. Was that true? Your expressions, what are you trying to express? A deep and husky voice, even if it was just a soft voice, it was extremely majestic. The moment the man opened his mouth, an invisible pressure was released. Everyone only felt a heavy pressure, pressing on their shoulders. Overlord, Overlord. Everyone's hearts sank as they spoke with trembling voices. Dmo Xian only lifted his eyelids, his eyes were very indifferent, his tone was also very indifferent. This Lord's woman, whatever profound grade she is, it's not up to you to tell her what to do. His voice paused slightly. He had a faint smile on his face as the corners of his mouth twitched. He looked a little sarcastic. Just you bunch of trash, and you have the nerve to be surprised by little Luo's profound grade. These words were filled with sarcasm. Chapter 38-30. They were indeed shocked by Yiqing Luo's profound grade. They also thought that a profound grade like Yiqing Luo shouldn't display that kind of sharpness. But they had neglected it. Yiqing Luo was a young sky profound cultivator, but she relied on her own strength to save all of them. It made them feel from the bottom of their hearts, treating her as the only hope to break the array. So what if their profound grades were higher than Yiqing Luo? So what if their abilities were above Yiqing Luo? They were totally incomparable to a young lady. On Yiqing Luo, profound grade wasn't important at all. Her potential, her ability, was the real reason why they were convinced. They shouldn't be here, pointing fingers at Yiqing Luo's profound grade. Instead, they should reflect on themselves. Profound grade, powerful ability, so what? Unable to use their own strength, to do something that they thought was meaningful. What was the use of such power? They couldn't refute. They were indeed trash. After Yi Qing Luo opened her eyes, she heard Dmo Xian defending her and Zomo's words. She didn't have any special feelings. To her, those people were just strangers. She didn't care about their thoughts. Following her breathing, she adjusted the profound qi that was still surging wildly in her profound jade heart. There was also the dark force that was continuously circulating in his body for a few days. She didn't expect. He had actually broken through in one fell swoop at this critical juncture. Just now, the white dot that was swimming around in his mind, the white dot that was more naughty than a mantis shrimp, was the opportunity to break through. After she grabbed hold of that opportunity, she felt the change in her own body's aura. Finally broke through. Since the last time when she contracted with Black Tortoise, Dmo Xian had suppressed her advancement and breakthrough power. She had never come across this opportunity. It was all thanks to this array. It made her breakthrough extremely smooth. She closed her eyes and clenched her fingers. The profound qi that overflowed from her fingertips vibrated. Her heart was calm. Her mind slowly returned to peace. Profound qi was still surging in her profound jade heart circulation and her limbs and bones. Just at this moment, among the crowd below, someone suddenly exclaimed, "Look! Madame D is about to advance again. Her aura is starting to fluctuate again." These words caused everyone to suck in a breath of cold air. All of them turned their gazes towards Yi Qing Luo in unison. As expected, he saw Yi Qing Luo standing beside the withered tree, her eyes slightly closed. A ball of demonic red profound light enveloped her entire body. Boom! The air vibrated. The air rippled. F***CK. Sage profound second grade. No. He's at the third level of the sage profound realm. F***CK. Fourth rank, 4, Chapter 38-31. Looking at the entire earth realm or even the upper realm. To be able to break through 3 or 4 grades consecutively at this age and at this profound grade. There was only Yi Qing Luo alone. Everyone's hearts were on the verge of collapsing. Where the hell did this pervert come from? Just based on Sky Profound 9th grade Profound grade, she contracted 4 sacred beasts and a mutated mirage beast. And she had the ability to go against Lord Yu. Not only did she break through when she was breaking the array, she even broke several grades consecutively. Not only did she break through, she even broke through several grades consecutively. Everyone stared at Yi Qing Luo's devastatingly beautiful face, but her features were obviously young and tender. They felt that their hearts were about to explode. Comparing oneself to others was infuriating. They no longer dared to use their dog eyes to look down on others. Finally, Yi Qing Luo finally stopped steadily at the sage profound 4th grade's aura. The surging profound energy in her body finally stopped. This time, Yi Qing Luo was certain. She had really advanced completely. After the advancement, Yi Qing Luo felt a warm current of profound energy, slowly dispersing her earlier fatigue. Even the air seemed to have become purer and cleaner. She could even clearly sense the surrounding heaven and earth's spiritual qi. Finally, she took another step forward. She finally was one step closer to Awe Xian. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled upwards. When her long and narrow eyes opened, she looked at him. The corner of her eyes overflowed with a coquettish glow. As though a captivating poppy flower was hooked at the corner of the young lady's eyes. She slowly turned around, her back facing the crowd. Then she raised her hand. Everyone only had time to see clearly that pair of slender fair wrists flashed past. Immediately after, a powerful and terrifying force slashed towards the withered tree. At the same time, Outside the formation, a majestic and tyrannical energy suddenly rose. Kacha, the dead tree broke into pieces. As of this moment, the collapsing, swaying auction suddenly stopped. The sky full of dark clouds also dispersed at this moment, revealing the light on the horizon. Various powerhouses cultivators were like withered trees coming back to life, fish on the verge of death, seeing water, their faces revealed an expression of escaping death. The light shone on every corner of the auction. It also presented the entire ruins in front of the citizens of the land domain. At the moment when the formation was broken, Yang Kai's eyes lit up. The young girl was pressed into the man's arms. She could smell the elegant sandalwood scent of a man. It was reassuring. She curled her pink lips and wrapped her arms around the man's waist. "Ah, Xian, I did it. You know how it feels to be worried about me, yet you're willing to let me worry about you like this." Dmo Xian's arms tightened as he felt the soft body of the person in his arms and smelled the delicate fragrance of the person in his arms. His restless heart. Only then did he seem to have come back to life. Yiqing Luo raised her head, her eyes curved as she smiled and said, "This is my fault, so, tonight, I will obediently atone for my own mistake." His voice fell. She lowered her voice and smiled faintly. "Are you satisfied with this?" Dmo Xian's arms tightened again. Then, he pulled her away. He lowered his head and looked at her with a burning gaze. "Are you serious?" Yiqing Luo's eyes were still curved as she smiled and nodded. "I'm serious." His eyes deepened. He lowered his head and rested his chin on her shoulder. By the side of her ear, was the man's deep and husky voice. "I've remembered it, this is what you said yourself." Yiqing Luo smiled as she hugged the man's back. Just as this sweet atmosphere surrounded them. Chapter 38-32. Yiqing Luo's eyes suddenly lit up as she popped her head out from the man's arms. Outside the ruins, dust billowed as a slender figure slowly walked over. A lady dressed in a sea blue long dress entered Yiqing Luo's sight. Her looks were stunning and cold to the extreme. Like a winter plum blossom on an iceberg, proud and aloof. When the woman's beautiful eyes, which were overflowing with a faint blue light, met his eyes, his heart trembled. Yiqing Luo had already pushed Dmo Xian away and pounced towards the lady. "Little Qing Wu." That's right. The lady in front of her was Jun Qing Wu, who went to the upper realm to investigate the person behind the secluded palace. Ever since she left Nirvana realm, she and Jun Qing Wu had never met each other again. It turned out that the person who attacked the array's eye was the helper that Dmo Xian mentioned. It was Jun Qing Wu. Yiqing Luo pounced forward and hugged the lady. The lady's cold face revealed a tinge of red. As though she wasn't used to being so close to someone. But looking at Yiqing Luo's joyous expression, the lady still didn't push Yiqing Luo away but raised her hand and gently hugged her back. This response made Yiqing Luo very surprised. One must know that her little Qing Wu was so cold and arrogant. She would never show any enthusiasm on the surface. To be able to hug her back. She had already given her enough face. The smile on Yiqing Luo's face bloomed even more brilliantly. "How did you know I was here? Did Xian tell you?" Yiqing Luo asked with a smile. Jun Qing Wu nodded. "The overlord informed me to rush over, but he didn't have time to tell me anything. By the time I rushed over, he had already entered the array." Yiqing Luo lowered her head as she gave an embarrassed smile. Xian must have been overly worried about her. Hence he couldn't wait any longer and rushed into the array to look for her after informing Jun Qing Wu. Then, "How did you know I was going to break the array? And you accurately found the array's eye and coordinated so well. Earlier when she destroyed the array's eye, If it wasn't for the external force which allowed her to see the blind spot of the array's eye and drip her blood into that blind spot, they were probably still trapped in the auction. Moreover, she did not have enough opportunities to seize the opportunity to successfully break through. Jun Qingwu looked behind her and said, "It's all thanks to your friend's timely arrival. Her battle pet provided me with an accurate solution." "My friend?" Yi Qing Luo was slightly stunned when she heard that. He heard the word battle pet again. Yi Qing Luo subconsciously looked to the side, at Xiao Yin who was hugging Qiu Qiu. A battle pet that came to help. It seemed that it was only this mutant beast of the Shadow Clan. "Long time no see, Qing Luo can't even see my existence." I had received a report from Miss June and immediately rushed over with my men. As he spoke, he looked at Jun Qingwu. "Miss June can testify that when we rushed over, we were also stopped outside the array." Jun Qingwu furrowed her brows and looked into the eyes of the librarian. Finally, she nodded her head. Yi Qing Luo scoffed lightly, "Are you trying to prove your incompetence?" To the historian of balance. Yi Qing Luo really couldn't muster up any good impression. Every time something happened, the historian of balance rushed over, but he could not completely solve the problem. He even handed over the dark forces to the historian of balance and brought them back to the heavenly Tao to be imprisoned. A bunch of historian of balance were still able to let the dark forces people escape. And even made the dark forces people join the Palace of Darkness. After the Palace of Darkness almost destroyed Nirvana realm, they even used some prophecy as an excuse. Now they had reached the Earth realm. Chapter 38-34. The librarian's brows creased as he looked at Yi Qing Luo with a chilly gaze. "Qing Luo, you've just experienced a huge battle and need to rest." Jun Qingwu interrupted the turbulent undercurrent between the two of them. She looked at the historiographer and said coldly, "Historiographer, if you have any questions, please ask them as soon as possible. They are all very tired." Jun Qingwu intervened because she didn't want her to become enemies with the court official. Yi Qing Luo wouldn't not give Jun Qingwu face. She softened her expression and glanced at the librarian indifferently. This was planned by the Palace of Tenebrous Darkness. Their goal was to seal all the elite profound practitioners in the Earth realm here and cause unrest in the Earth realm. As for their purpose, the keeper of records should be clear about it. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, the face of the historiographer turned cold and serious. His ice-cold eyes flickered with a dignified and cold light. After a while, he said in a tense voice, "I understand." Yi Qing Luo pointed to the ruins of the auction. "There's someone who had been drained of blood inside, rumored to be the son of the mastermind behind the Palace of Darkness. Perhaps we might be able to get some information from him." The historiographer's gaze flickered. Immediately, there were historians who flew towards the direction which Yi Qing Luo pointed at. Dmo Xian had already walked over from behind, his long arm directly hooked onto Yi Qing Luo, as his tone was calm and apathetic as he spoke to the librarian. "As for other matters, go and ask those people. Lil Luo is already very tired." The scribe immediately lowered his head. "Yes." Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laugh. She might as well just directly leaned into Dmo Xian's embrace. This feeling of bullying others wasn't bad at all. She was indeed quite tired. The moment Dmo Xian came over, Mo Yuing was squeezed to one side. Mo Yuing looked at her empty hand and looked at Dmo Xian who was carrying Yi Qing Luo. He tilted his head and thought for a moment. It was as if he was thinking about his chances of snatching the man from the hands of a venerable sovereign. In the end, he put his hand down. The chances of snatching him away were 0, so he was too lazy to make such a fearless choice. Mo Yuing was preparing to follow behind Dmo Xian and Yi Qing Luo. Suddenly, she felt a burning gaze that was tightly glued to her body. This feeling. He had sensed it ever since he broke the formation. But all her heart was on Yiqing Luo, so she didn't pay too much attention to it. At this moment, the feeling of that gaze was even more intense. It was so strong that she couldn't help but pay attention to where this gaze was coming from. Mo Ying didn't like this feeling. She stopped in her tracks and looked in the direction of his gaze. His line of sight stopped at a tall and handsome silver-haired man. The man's eyes were fixated on her without blinking. His gaze was deep and complicated. It was an emotion that she could not understand and was too lazy to understand. Mo Ying's line of sight was fixed on the man's embrace. She stiffly raised her hands and stretched them out in the man's direction. The man's body suddenly stiffened, and there seemed to be a storm surging in his eyes. Even Pei Xing, who was slow to react, was stunned. At this moment, all of them could feel the chilling aura emanating from their brothers. He was so close that he could clearly see the way his brother looked at the little girl. "Brother, are you really not afraid of scaring the girl away?" Pei Xing was shivering at the side. The man holding the mutant beast suddenly moved. Qiao Yinyan stood up. His gaze was complicated as he stared deeply at Mo Ying. After that, step by step, he walked towards Mo Ying. Every step he took, the expression on his face became even more complicated. Chapter 38-35. Such an oppressive pressure. This caused Mo Ying's expressionless face to stiffen into a frown. Her empty gaze swept across the man's face. He looked at the flowing silver hair swaying in front of his eyes as he walked. He suddenly felt a sharp pain in his head. His eyes felt a little painful. Such a feeling. Mo Ying hadn't felt it for a long time. He didn't like this feeling either. Her hollow eyes stared at the man's chest, her arms shaking up and down stiffly. Her voice was stiff and emotionless like a repeater. "Qiu, come here." "Master." Qiu, who was struggling in Qiao Yinyan's arms, howled. Its four limbs struggled out of Qiao Yinyan's arms and pounced towards Mo Ying. Mo Ying hugged Qiu. Then, he stiffly hugged her in his arms, turned around, and left. Qiao Yinyan's footsteps immediately came to a halt. His dark eyes, which were filled with huge waves, stared at Mo Ying's back view. The cold qi around his body became even more intense, almost freezing the surrounding air into ice. His whole body tensed up. He clenched his fists tightly. He seemed to be very angry. Even Pei Xing didn't dare to approach him. Yiqing Luo naturally felt the change in the atmosphere. While Mo Ying was looking for Qiu, she stopped and waited for Mo Ying. Then, she saw Qiao Yinyan's terrifying gaze as he looked at Mo Ying. Rather, it was terrifying. However, that gaze wasn't filled with hatred or anything like that. Instead, it was the kind of gaze that was so complicated that no one could tell what kind of emotion it was. He could only see that. A whirlpool and a storm gathered in Qiao Yinyan's eyes. Why did Qiao Yinyan look at Mo Ying like that? Especially, just now, when Mo Ying stretched out her hands towards Qiu's expression changed. The aura around Qiao Yinyan grew even stronger. The whirlpool spun and the storm raged. But, amidst all these fierce and complicated emotions, there was also a kind of, it was very, very complicated, helplessness, compromise. After Mo Ying carried Qiu away, Qiao Yinyan was like a wild beast that had gone berserk. This is, Yiqing Luo suddenly recalled what Gue Wu had said earlier. There was always someone in Qiao Yinyan's heart, there had always been a woman. Then, Qiao Yinyan didn't seem to want to talk about that woman. And the way Qiao Yinyan looked at Mo Ying, and his attitude, could it be, the person in Qiao Yinyan's heart was Mo Ying? No way. Yiqing Luo was struck by this heavenly thunder rumbling thought of hers until she was burnt on the outside and tender on the inside. Mo Ying's attitude towards Qiao Yinyan. It seemed like she didn't know Qiao Yinyan. Yi Qing Luo expressed that her gossipy heart was stirring. When Mo Ying walked over with Qiao, she asked, "Shadow, do you know Qiao Yinyan?" "Who?" Mo Ying raised her head and asked blankly. Yi Qing Luo lifted her chin towards Qiao Yinyan's direction, "The person who has been watching you." "I don't know him." Mo Ying answered very straightforwardly. "I don't like his eyes." Yi Qing Luo, if Qiao Yinyan heard these words, it would really be a stab to his heart. She glanced at Qiao Yinyan before shifting her gaze back to Mo Ying. She rubbed her chin and said, "But I feel that he seems to know you." Mo Ying tilted her head as her expressionless stiff face revealed a troubled expression for the first time. "But, I don't know him." Yi Qing Luo felt that she had to ask Qiao Yinyan why he kept staring at Mo Ying. She was just about to call Qiao Yinyan over. Chapter 38-36. Mo Ying. These three words were filled with hostility. However, it was also mixed with another indescribable meaning. Moreover, Qiao Yinyan's expression was so complicated that it was hard to understand. How did he know your name?" Yi Qing Luo pointed at Qiao Yinyan. Her heart was even more certain of her previous guess. Mo Ying shook her head stiffly, "I don't know." Yi Qing Luo clicked her tongue as she narrated the drama that she had imagined. "The way he looked at you made me feel that there was once a touching relationship between the two of you, then you heartless woman abandoned him." Mo Ying was expressionless as she blinked her empty eyes. No. Yi Qing Luo knew that Mo Ying would not lie, nor would she lie because of such a matter. She could tell that Mo Ying really didn't know Qiao Yinyan. And she didn't have a good impression of Qiao Yinyan. Could it be Qiao Yinyan recognized the wrong person? Yi Qing Luo felt that the possibility was very high. Why? After becoming Godless Island sage, you don't even dare to greet me? Qiao Yinyan's cold eyes stared at Mo Ying without blinking. His tone was filled with ridicule. Yi Qing Luo suddenly felt this was really a big show. He even knew that Mo Ying was Godless Island sage. It looked like there was really some unspeakable secret between Qiao Yinyan and Mo Ying. And from Qiao Yinyan's tone, it was filled with ridicule, but even more so, self-deprecation. Yi Qing Luo expressed. The secret between the two was very complicated. After hearing Qiao Yinyan's words, Mo Ying finally reacted. She slowly turned her head back, her empty eyes fixed on Qiao Yinyan. After a long time, she asked, "Who are you?" She stared at him for so long. She was sizing up Qiao Yinyan's face. But in her memory, Mo Ying didn't think that she knew him. When Mo Ying asked this question, Qiao Yinyan's face instantly turned pale. His dark pupils were filled with whirlpools as he stared at Mo Ying. His eyes were filled with pain and anger. "What a good, who are you, ha ha ha. You actually asked me. Who am I?" Qiao Yinyan couldn't help laughing. But that laughter was filled with pain. Mo Ying lifted her feet and walked towards him. Step by step, she walked up to Qiao Yinyan and came to a stop. She didn't even reach Qiao Yinyan's shoulder when she stood in front of him. As Mo Ying got closer, Qiao Yinyan's aura was constantly changing. Raging waves of qi waves, wave after wave equals fierce surging. But just as Mo Ying neared, all the storms calmed down. Mo Ying raised her head to look at him. The expressionless, empty eyes rolled around and blinked. Then, with a serious tone, he said, "I'm sorry, I really don't know who you are. If I accidentally forgot about you, I apologize in advance." Then, he asked again, "How do you know me? You even know my identity?" The smile on Xiao Yinyan's face gradually froze. He stared at Mo Ying. Keep staring. Especially when he saw Mo Ying's pair of beautiful eyes that were so dark that they were so deep that they were devoid of any emotion. His expression finally changed a little. Xiao Yinyan frowned and looked at Mo Ying suspiciously. Chapter 38-37. His voice paused slightly as he stared at Mo Ying and said word by word, "Do you really think that just because you are a puppet, I will forgive you?" Mo Ying's pupils widened slightly. There seemed to be a flash of light in her extremely dark pupils. Her silvery hair swayed in front of her eyes. That heart-wrenching pain assaulted him again. Mo Ying was unfamiliar with this kind of feeling. She slowly raised her hand and pressed it on her chest. Her lifeless eyes flickered slightly. Her long eyelashes were also fluttering. Was it heartache? Was this the feeling of heartache? She was also a person with a heart. Mo Ying fell into her own thoughts. His eyes were wide open, and there was an extreme darkness in them. So dark that the bottom couldn't be seen. This made Xiao Yinyan felt as if he had punched into cotton. Like all the anger only belonged to him alone. The girl in front of him had no reaction at all. This realization made Xiao Yinyan's arms drop to his sides in disappointment. He forcefully shut his eyes. He staggered back a few steps. A self-deprecating chuckle came out from his mouth. Then, he turned around and walked weakly in another direction with weak steps. His back view looked extremely lonely. As if he had lost all his vitality. Was his heart dead? Yiqing Luo's slender brows knitted even tighter. She took a look at Mo Ying. Seeing Mo Ying still standing at the same spot, pressing her chest, not knowing what she was thinking, not moving at all. Like a puppet. Yiqing Luo sighed. Others didn't know what Mo Ying's situation was. As a brother, how could she not know that Mo Ying had fallen into her own world at this moment? Looking at Xiao Yinyan's lonely and dejected back view, Yiqing Luo finally called out, "Yinyan, wait." The moment she opened her mouth, Xiao Yinyan stopped in his tracks. Even Mo Ying, who had fallen into her own world, also raised her head. Tilting her head slightly, she stared at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo walked directly to Mo Ying's side and held her hand. She sighed and said, "I don't know if you've mistaken me for someone else, or if you've misunderstood something. Ever since I met the shadow, she has been like this. There's no such thing as playing dumb, or puppet, that you think she is." Xiao Yinyan's back stiffened. Following that, he turned around abruptly as his dark pupils stared deadly at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo didn't evade as her eyes congealed and seriously met his gaze. After a long while, Xiao Yinyan's eyes gradually dimmed. His thin lips moved, and his voice was a little hoarse. Why is she like this? I don't know. Yiqing Luo shook her head. Ever since I met her, she has been like this. Xiao Yinyan's gaze slowly shifted back to Mo Ying. He looked at Mo Ying's expressionless face. Those empty, soulless eyes. And the stiff and completely unnatural way he tilted his head. His heart was in a mess, to tell the truth, when Yiqing Luo started to explain. His heart had already started to believe a little. From the moment he met Mo Ying, he had sensed her strangeness and unnaturalness. But the hatred and resentment he had towards her made him neglect all these. The current Mo Ying, but the her in his memory, was indeed very different. The atmosphere gradually turned heavy. No one opened their mouths. After a long while. Chapter 38-38. Everyone had more or less injuries on them. If they stayed any longer, their lives might be in danger. Yiqing Luo took a deep look at Xiao Yin and held Mo Yu Ying's little hand as she returned to Mo Xian's side. The group of them were just about to leave. A scribe hurried over and whispered something in the ear of the scribe. The historian's face sunk instantly. He raised his hand and stopped the group of people who were about to leave. Miss Yi, the person you mentioned earlier. The son of the mastermind behind the secluded palace, we didn't see him. The historian asked solemnly, think carefully, have you remembered the wrong direction? When Pei Xing heard this, he became unhappy. The last array, it was because that person called Lord Yu used his blood to activate the array, causing the auction to become like this. There are so many pairs of eyes watching him being sucked dry, how could we remember the wrong direction? The historian's stern gaze looked at Pei Xing, but we indeed didn't find the person you mentioned. How could that be possible? Pei Xing wanted to say something but Yiqing Luo raised her hand, blocking his words. Yiqing Luo frowned as she looked at the historian with a grave expression. You said you didn't find Lord Yu's corpse earlier when the array was broken. Because of her profound grade breakthrough, as well as seeing her old friend, she didn't pay much attention to Lord Yu. Lord Yu's corpse disappeared. Or perhaps Lord Yu actually wasn't dead. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned cold as she suppressed her voice. If Lord Yu has disappeared, someone must have saved him. His injuries are too serious, he definitely can't leave alone. When the historian heard that, he took a look at the historian behind him, Chase. Yiqing Luo completely left the matters of the auction to the historians to investigate and settle. She followed Jun Qingwu and originally wanted to return to the Treasures Exchange Hall to stay. But following that, Qiao family's patriarch rushed over and politely welcomed the group of people to Qiao family's residence. Yiqing Luo looked at Qiao family's patriarch Qiao, whose head was lowered and his silver hair covered half of his face, but she didn't reject patriarch Qiao's good intentions. She was also very curious. What was going on between Qiao Yinyan and Mo Yuing? The group of people arrived at the Qiao family mansion. Patriarch Qiao arranged a good guest room for them and said, "Have a good rest, everyone." Then, he left the room sensibly. The great battle in the auction. The people outside didn't know. But looking at the auction that had been reduced to ruins, and at least 2/3 of the elite profound practitioners had died, he knew how dangerous the battle was. At this moment, letting them rest was the best choice. Patriarch Qiao had obviously treated Yiqing Luo and Mo Xian as a married couple as he arranged a room for them. After the two of them walked into the guest room, they smelled a faint medicinal fragrance in the air. On the wooden table in the room, there were all kinds of medicine. Moreover, the medicine was of the highest quality. Some were used to treat external injuries, some were used to treat internal injuries, and some were used to replenish physical strength. This Patriarch Qiao has indeed arranged it appropriately. Yiqing Luo picked up a bottle of medicine and shook it in her fingertips. Behind him, however, was a scalding hot body. The man's low and hoarse voice floated down from above. These are not important, the important thing is Lil Luo should fulfill his promise. The man lowered his head slightly. His chin rested on the young lady's fair neck. Warm air sprayed out, making Yiqing Luo's neck to emerge with little goosebumps. Chapter 38-39. Yiqing Luo placed one hand on the back of the man's hand and gently pulled it apart, with the space to move. Yiqing Luo turned around in his arms and faced the man. She raised her head and met with the man's dark obsidian eyes. Deep in his eyes, there was a hint of affection. Just a glance. Yiqing Luo felt her legs go soft. This man's charm, it really made her unable to control herself at all times. Yiqing Luo's curly long eyelashes fluttered as she suppressed the surging, evil thoughts towards Mo Xian in her heart. Her tender lips curled into a shallow arc as she smiled sweetly at him. Dmo Xian's pupils reflected the young lady's face, which was as beautiful as a flower. His eyes dimmed again. Immediately he exerted force and brought her delicate body into his arms. Then his feet moved. He pressed the young lady's butt against the wooden table. And he lowered his body, one hand hooked Yiqing Luo's waist, the other hand supported on the table. The distance between the two was very close. His breath sprayed, his magnetic and gentle voice was like a soul-stirring tune, very pleasant to listen to. Looks like you have already thought of how to atone for your sins. Yiqing Luo looked at the handsome face in front of her, that pair of shimmering peach blossom eyes, slightly met, like a whirlpool, even the soul seemed to be sucked in, sinking into it. Previously, after breaking the auction's array, she did say personally that she wanted to atone for her rash actions which made him worried. She didn't deny this point. So, the young lady smiled faintly as she raised her head, her hands automatically circled around the man's neck, smiling exceptionally sweetly. So, my dear Xian, are you ready to enjoy my atonement? Her two hands circled around the man. Almost all the strength of her upper body hung on the man's body. The man's body slightly leaned forward. A few strands of black hair fell, falling on Yiqing Luo's face. That peerless, breathtakingly handsome face came closer by a few degrees. And because of this, Yiqing Luo could clearly see, after she finished that sentence, Dmo Xian's pair of shimmering eyes slightly contracted. Yiqing Luo smiled. There was a hint of velvet in his eyes. The corners of her eyes arched upwards, becoming increasingly flirtatious. Yiqing Luo raised her hand slightly and pressed it on Dmo Xian's chest. It was tight and pushed with a little force. She pushed his body a distance away from her. She slid her hands down to the man's shoulders. When doing these movements, her eyes met his from the beginning to the end. Her smile widened. His feet moved. In an instant, the two of them had moved to the side of the bed in the inner room. Dmo Xian shot a glance at the bed behind him and the smile on his thin lips deepened. Lil Luo is really sincere this time. In order to redeem himself as soon as possible, he even used the secret teleportation technique. Yiqing Luo only laughed. Her long and narrow eyes were overflowing with light, which made her even more enchanting and flirtatious. Dmo Xian's vision fell onto the young lady's fair skin, as smooth as silk, as his gaze turned darker and his voice became hoarse. If those people outside knew that you used the secret teleportation technique in this way, I'm afraid they would shout that it's a waste of God's gift. The secret teleportation technique is mine. How I want to use it, what has it got to do with them? Yiqing Luo's brows rose, as she suddenly exerted force, pressing the man onto the bed. Her silky black hair was scattered on the bed. After the black hair scattered. Chapter 38-40. After Dmo Xian fell, Yiqing Luo's hand was pressed on his chest. She leaned down and gave a mischievous and complacent smile, just like, "You're my man, how I want to sleep with you is my business." The young lady's words were like a feather, scratching Dmo Xian's heart. His eyes were overflowing with joy. His gaze towards Yiqing Luo was even more tender. He was smiling. His smile was magnificent. Yiqing Luo felt that she was about to drown in the man's pampering eyes. She hurriedly retracted her gaze and adjusted her emotions. This man belonged to her. How she wanted to sleep, whenever she wanted to sleep, she could. This person, belonged to her. So, don't wallow in his beauty. Anyway, he belonged to her. Yiqing Luo brainwashed herself in her heart. Just in case she really couldn't control herself and directly pounced on Dmo Xian. She stretched out her hand and tugged at Dmo Xian's belt. The man quickly grasped her hand with his large, broad palm. Yiqing Luo raised her head and looked at him. Dmo Xian's gaze was deep as he held her palm, giving off a scorching heat. Lil Luo, is so proactive, it makes me very surprised. There's someone more proactive at the back. Let go, lie down and enjoy obediently. Yiqing Luo swung her hand, indicating him to let go. The man didn't let go. Yiqing Luo simply used the other hand to tug at the man's belt again. Dmo Xian's eyes flashed past a sliver of helplessness. That gaze, which was mixed with adoration, fixed on the young lady for a few breaths. Eventually he let go of the hand which was holding her. He allowed the young lady to take two-pronged actions, touching him from top to bottom. The man's robe looked simple, but in fact it was very complicated. There were a lot of buckles inside. The young lady was tugging, and as she lost her patience, she directly pulled open the man's collar. With this tug, the buckles immediately fell off. The man's skin and that smooth muscle lines were magnified in Yiqing Luo's eyes. But what attracted Yiqing Luo's gaze was not the man's strong and seductive body, but on the man's shoulder. That patch of greenish black. And there was a trace of 5 fingers. It was as if it was deeply embedded in his flesh. Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted as she leaned closer to him. She lifted her soft fingers and placed them on the greenish-black palm print. Her throat was a little dry. Does it hurt? It doesn't hurt. Dmo Xian smiled as he shook his head, as he raised his hand and caught her fingers, covering her little hand in his wide and thick palm. He held her hand, brought it to his lips, and kissed it gently. This injury is nothing. What I'm looking forward to is you taking the initiative to atone for your sins. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered as her gaze was still fixated on the greenish-black finger mark on his shoulder. The shy expression on her face was different from before. Instead, there was a faint look of worry. Chapter 38:41. But the atonement I promised you is to apply the medicine for you personally. Yiqing Luo replied decisively, her brows arched. Do you feel that I'm very sincere? Do you feel extremely touched? Dmo Xian's thin lips curled up into an arc, which made him look noble and elegant. You know very well what I want. He continued to stare at her. His gaze was burning, the meaning was clear. Yiqing Luo suddenly pressed her body towards his direction. Dmo Xian's hand, which was holding her, loosened slightly. The young lady had already pushed his hand down, pressing it on the bed. Following that, a warm and soft fingertip pressed on the greenish-black palm print on his shoulder. The cold medicinal powder was sprinkled down. Dmo Xian's shoulder trembled slightly. He lifted his eyes and saw the young lady's flawless face at a close distance. That thick and long eyelashes projected down her eyelids, but it still couldn't cover the young lady's sparkling eyes. He didn't move. He allowed the young lady to apply the medicine for him. Yiqing Luo's actions were very fast. She bandaged Dmo Xian in a few moments. She had just put down the bandage in her hand. Her wrist was held by Dmo Xian. She looked towards Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian smiled. Bandage done, then. What's next? Yiqing Luo looked at the big palm which held her wrist, and then looked at his shoulder. There was no shyness on her face, instead there was some mischievousness. Looking at her expression, Dmo Xian vaguely sensed that something was wrong. He heard the young lady said with a smile, looks like Xian still understands me very well, knowing to take the initiative to request, then I won't stand on ceremony. Saying that, her hands had already landed on his open robe. Gently tugging. The originally loose robe was slid to the two sides. Yiqing Luo lifted both his arms out of his sleeves. Dmo Xian's upper body was completely exposed. Every inch of lines, every inch of muscles, was reflected in Yiqing Luo's eyes. Yiqing Luo swept a glance up and down. After confirming that Dmo Xian's body only had that injury on his shoulder, she then felt relieved. Then she picked up Dmo Xian's robe and threw it on his body, covering up that part of his muscular body which was tempting her to commit. Dmo Xian propped himself up and wrapped an arm around her waist. His chest, which was only separated by a piece of robe, was very close to her delicate body. "That's it." He lifted his lower lip, and his voice was filled with laughter. Feeling the heat coming from the man, Yiqing Luo wanted to struggle. "Seems like I've stirred up some fire." When he saw the person in his arms, his body stiffened. Dmo Xian couldn't help but curled his lips upwards as his smile deepened. The little fellow was so mischievous. She even dared to tease him. If he didn't teach her a lesson, perhaps the little fellow would have to play the same trick again in the future. Play once, this is called fun. If he played it more often, he did not think that he could maintain his self-control in front of her. Thinking like this, the man's eyes darkened. He suddenly flipped over. Yiqing Luo only felt that the world was spinning and her back was pressed against the soft mattress. And above, the man's warm breath was spraying down. Her and Dmo Xian's position had been switched. She blinked her eyes as a layer of crimson finally surfaced on her cheeks. Her little hands lifted up and pressed against the man's chest. But because of Dmo Xian's sudden action, the robe that covered his body had long fallen to the side. Yiqing Luo's hand fell on the man's firm skin. The strong and firm touch brought with it a scalding heat. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but withdrew her hand. Chapter 38-42. This posture was very dangerous. The heat from the man's body said it all. Yiqing Luo tried her best to show an innocent look as she blinked her eyes. She only cared about flirting with men. But she had forgotten that this man in front of her, on the surface, looked like a large puppy. But at some point, he would transform into a wolf dog. The moment he touched her, something happened. Dmo Xian's eyes, which were as deep as a serene lake, looked deeply into Yiqing Luo's eyes. Looking at Yiqing Luo's widened and innocent expression, the corners of his mouth rose unconsciously. His body leaned down a little more. The scorching breath drew closer to the young girl. It was so close that the girl's pupils dilated slightly. "Lil Luo, has it been too long since I've used my actions to tell you not to provoke him easily?" He chuckled softly. His voice was a little hoarse, and it was very pleasant to hear. His faint magnetism tugged at her heartstrings. Yiqing Luo felt that her heart was almost out of control. Following the man's large palm, he followed the lines of her delicate body, moving up bit by bit. Yiqing Luo's body tensed up even more. The place where his large palm brushed, it trembled slightly. It was like a stream of fire igniting her body and mind. His kiss fell on her. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered as she closed her eyes. But he closed his eyes and remained silent for a long time. There was no man's warm and soft touch on her lips. On the contrary, the ball of warmth on her body also turned over and landed next to her. Yiqing Luo was stunned and slightly dazed. The eyes moved and opened. Dmo Xian's eyes were filled with smiles and the corners of his lips were curled into a teasing arc. That ridiculing smile made Yiqing Luo's cheeks flush red. You. Was she being flirted with? With a hook of his long arm, he pulled her into his embrace. He laughed softly. "I know you're tired. Have a good rest." After a few consecutive battles, in a moment of desperation, he unleashed a power that exceeded what his body could withstand. Then, he broke through again. Anyone would feel physically and mentally exhausted. How could Dmo Xian possibly request Yiqing Luo to satisfy him at this moment? No, he was simply hugging her. They hugged each other and slept together. His heart was already satisfied. Feel the man's scorching love, and for her concern. Yiqing Luo's brows were tainted with a gentle glow. She buried her head in his chest and put one hand on his waist. Just as he closed his eyes, his heart filled with happiness. Dmo Xian's magnetic and mellow voice rang in her ears, "When I'm well rested, I'll be waiting for your atonement." Yiqing Luo, feeling the girl in his arms stiffen, he smiled and said, "Don't forget what I said before. If you start a fire, you have to be responsible for extinguishing it." Yiqing Luo, could this joke ever get over it? His body and mind were indeed exhausted. This rest. He rested until the next morning. By the time Yiqing Luo opened her eyes, the man was no longer by her side. He reached out to touch the side of his body. It was cold, which meant that he had been awake for a long time. She sat up straight and saw the bandage hanging on the side. It seemed that Dmo Xian had changed the medicine himself. She rubbed her face. Only by Dmo Xian's side. She slept like a log. She didn't even notice that Dmo Xian had woken up and left. Yiqing Luo got up and changed into a new set of clothes from the profound phoenix ring. After washing up, she walked out of the room. The room that Patriarch Qiao had arranged for her and Dmo Xian was the quietest. When she walked out of the courtyard. Chapter 38-43. Kitty Lee smelled Yiqing Luo's scent and was the first to jump up and pounce towards her. "Sister." Yiqing Luo hugged her. The few of them also looked towards Yiqing Luo. "Have you recovered?" Jun Qingwu looked at Yiqing Luo from head to toe. Yiqing Luo nodded. "After a nap, my body and mind are relaxed." TSK. "That's because you don't know what the Overlord did for you after you fell asleep." Zhou Mo's sloppy voice was heard. What did this mean? Zhou Mo rubbed his chin and gave a playful smile. "Your Overlord, after you fell asleep, gave you a full body check." His voice dragged on with a hint of mockery. Jun Qingwu directly threw the teacup in her hand towards Zhou Mo. Zhou Mo raised his palm and split the teacup open. "Don't say it's so dirty." Jun Qingwu shot a glance at him and then looked at Yiqing Luo as she explained, "The Overlord said that you had expended too much energy in the array. Even if you managed to grab hold of the opportunity to break through, the energy after the breakthrough had enriched your body and mind, but the energy that erupted earlier had still affected your body." She paused and continued, "So after you fell asleep, the Overlord used some herbs to make incense to help you relieve the fatigue and replenish the energy in your body." Yiqing Luo was stunned. Wasn't he injured? No wonder, after she woke up. She felt that her body and mind were comfortable and light like a swallow. Initially she thought that this was the reaction after a night's rest after the breakthrough. She didn't expect. It was Xian. Didn't he need to rest at all? The Overlord knows his limits, even if it's for you, he won't tire himself out. Jun Qingwu comforted her. Then where did he go now? Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes. That fool, silently waiting for her to fall asleep, for the sake of her body. But completely disregarding herself. He was injured and didn't even know how to rest properly. This man, when he started to pamper others, it made one's legs go soft. Kitty Lee snuggled into her arms and said, "Overlord brother-in-law heard from Sister Zishi that there is a stalk of medicinal herb that is especially helpful to you at the West Cliff Mountain, so I followed her to pick it." Yiqing Luo's lips suddenly pursed tightly. Di Zun knows his limits. Don't worry. Jun Qingwu saw Yiqing Luo's expression change and immediately held her arm, bringing her to the stone bench. "I am angry." Yiqing Luo's eyes were slightly sunken, so sunken that it turned black. "He's worried about me, I'll also be worried about him, I'm still injured and still running around." She pursed her lips even tighter as she spoke. Then, he broke free from Jun Qingwu's grasp. No, I have to go to the western cliff mountain to look for him. Di Zun has been gone for some time. Even if you go there now, you might not be able to find him. Jun Qingwu hurriedly hugged her. Chapter 38:44. Kitty Lee replied with an N and immediately pouted her lips as she mumbled, "Sister has only been separated from Kitty for a month and already got to know so many friends." If Kitty Lee didn't find Sister in time, would Sister forget about Kitty Lee? The little girl's voice was filled with grievance. As though she was fighting for favor, her little head was raised up high to look at her. Yiqing Luo rubbed Kitty Lee's furry little head as she laughed softly. "I can forget anyone but Kitty Lee. My friends are Kitty Lee's friends." Kitty Lee's face finally revealed a smile after her fur was smoothed. She had just finished smoothing Kitty Lee's fur. Suddenly a little head came into her arms. In front of her was Mo Yuying's tender figure and that adorable Lolita's expressionless face. Yiqing Luo was stunned. Mo Yuying put her head under Yiqing Luo's palm as she spat out a word stiffly, "Touch." All right, this was a fight for favor. Looking at the two kids in front of her, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh. Then, he raised his hand and rubbed the heads of each of them. Mo Yuying's stiff lips curled upwards. His smile was stiff and unnatural when compared to his expressionless face. Yiqing Luo pinched Mo Yuying's face as her fingers landed on her raised lips. "Shadow can smile more." Mo Yuying tilted her head as her dense long eyelashes blinked and nodded, "N." Just as she was saying that, Yiqing Luo acutely felt a scorching gaze falling on her. She immediately looked over. She saw a slender figure standing at the entrance of the courtyard. Silver hair and black robe. The gentle breeze made the desolation on the man's body even more obvious. It was Qiao Yinyan. He was looking at her without blinking. No. More accurately, his attention was still on Mo Yuying. Only occasionally, a glance, which made Yiqing Luo couldn't help but pay attention to it. When she looked over, Qiao Yinyan also raised his eyes and met her gaze. Yiqing Luo understood. She whispered something to Mo Yuying and Kitty Lee. Then she walked towards Qiao Yinyan. "Do you have time? I want to talk to you." Qiao Yinyan looked at her, his eyes dark and heavy. Yiqing Luo understood his meaning as she nodded her head. Following closely behind him, the two of them walked out of the courtyard. Qiao Yinyan walked in front. His slender figure looked extremely lonely from the back. It was as if some darkness had covered his radiance. His entire person was very dispirited. Looking at his back view, Yiqing Luo sighed and took the initiative to open her mouth. "You're looking for me, to ask about the matters regarding shadow, right?" Qiao Yinyan's footsteps suddenly halted. Yiqing Luo was very close. It could be seen that his body under the black robe had tensed up. As expected, it was because of Mo Yuying. Mentioning Mo Yuying, his reaction was huge. Mo Yuying, was she really like this from the beginning? He didn't turn around, but from his voice, one could tell how confused and apprehensive he was. Yiqing Luo looked at his back view for a long time and didn't reply. Then she walked slowly to him, looked into his eyes and said word by word, "Whether it's true or not, from the moment you came to ask me, you already have the answer in your heart, isn't it?" Qiao Yinyan's pupils contracted slightly. Chapter 38:45. Qiao Yinyan's eyes flashed past a gloomy glint. He clenched his fists as his expression turned cold. Looking at his expression, Yiqing Luo raised her brows slightly as she pursed her lips slightly, revealing a hint of coldness. "You should be able to tell that Shadow's current condition is not that of a normal person." Indeed. From the first time she met Mo Yuying, Yiqing Luo felt strange. But she heard from Long Yunjian and the rest that Mo Yuing had always been like this. So she dispelled her intention to probe further. But now that she saw Qiao Yinyan, and thinking back to what Qiao Yinyan had said earlier, Qiao Yinyan felt that Mo Yuying's current look was an act. Which meant, he had met Mo Yuing, and it was the other side of Mo Yuing. Yi Qing Luo lowered her eyelids slightly. That girl who looked like a little Lolita had an expressionless face. Especially those big, round eyes. They were so beautiful, but they were empty and devoid of life. Every word and action, every action. They were like puppets that were being manipulated by strings. If it was the previous Mo Yuing, she wasn't like this, which meant that there must be a reason why Mo Yuing became like this. Qiao Yinyan's breathing became hurried. He raised his head abruptly as his eyes stared at Yi Qing Luo. That gaze seemed to be urging her to continue speaking. Yi Qing Luo was extremely curious about what had happened between Qiao Yinyan and Mo Yuing. Moreover, she could tell Qiao Yinyan had deep feelings for Mo Yuing. She was basically certain. The woman in Qiao Yinyan's heart that Gue Wu mentioned earlier was undoubtedly Mo Yuing. Yi Qing Luo thought about it and told Qiao Yinyan about the strange parts. During the world-destroying battle in the Nirvana realm, the secluded palace had targeted Mo Yuying's soul. From the godless island, they had obtained a pitch-black dagger that targeted Mo Yuing. After that, the period when Mo Yuing was unconscious, her face and her eyes all had more of a human radiance. At that time, Mo Yuing really looked like a normal person. But after that, she reverted back to that stiff puppet look. After Yi Qing Luo finished speaking about these things, the more Qiao Yinyan listened, the deeper his frown became. In the end, his eyes were burning. Seeing Qiao Yinyan's expression, Yi Qing Luo was almost certain. No matter what happened between Qiao Yinyan and Mo Yuing in the past, it didn't matter how angry Qiao Yinyan was when he saw Mo Yuing. In the end, he still had deep feelings for Mo Yuing. No matter how Qiao Yinyan tried to refute it, it was the truth. Speaking of this, she was also very curious about something. Since you've always had Mo Yuing in your heart, then why, when you first met me, your attitude towards me was so... Yi Qing Luo deliberated over her words and finally used two words to describe it, so... ambiguous. It was indeed very ambiguous. Qiao Yinyan's attitude towards her. No matter who came to see it, they would all misunderstand, right? When she went to the Qiao mansion, Patriarch Qiao's eyes were shining as he looked at her. Clearly, she had misunderstood Qiao Yinyan's attitude towards her. Not to mention others. Even she had her doubts several times. If it wasn't for the fact that she felt that Qiao Yinyan's attention towards her didn't seem to be the kind of love between a man and a woman. She wanted to have an open and honest talk with Qiao Yinyan, while she was silently cursing in her heart. Chapter 38-46. Don't tell me. It's really because of what Gue Wu said. After Yi Qing Luo finished her words, she clicked her tongue as her face was filled with a teasing smile. So the reason why you treated me so well right from the start was because Teacher Gue Yu requested you to take care of me. Qiao Yinyan's expression froze. Not only his face, even the muscles on his body froze up. Following that, his flustered gaze evaded Yi Qing Luo's line of sight as he lifted his leg and walked forward. That flustered look made him look like he had a guilty conscience. Yi Qing Luo looked at his hurried back view as she couldn't help but laugh out loud. It seemed that her guess was not far from the truth. Qiao Yinyan took such good care of her. It was because of Gue Yu's advance greeting. This also explained why Patriarch Qiao was so passionate when he saw her. It must be Gue Yu, that old urchin, who intentionally said something to make Patriarch Qiao misunderstand, causing Patriarch Qiao to mistakenly think that she would become Qiao family's future daughter-in-law. Amen. Most importantly, Guiyu seemed to have used Mo Ying's name to greet Qiao Yinyan. That meant to say, Qiao Yinyan had always known that Mo Ying was in Nirvana realm. He had been secretly paying attention to Mo Ying. Then why? How could he not know about the changes in Mo Ying? What had happened to Mo Ying, which caused her to become like this? These questions looked like she could only ask teacher Guiyu after they met before she could find out. After Qiao Yinyan left, Yiqing Luo returned to the courtyard. Zhou Mo's brows rose as he asked smilingly, "That lad looked for you, is it to ask about Shadow?" Yiqing Luo nodded as her gaze fell onto Shadow. Mo Ying tilted her head as she blinked, "Me." Yiqing Luo waved at her. Mo Ying immediately ran into Yiqing Luo's arms as she raised her exquisite and adorable face as she looked at her. Yiqing Luo touched her head. "Shadow doesn't remember that man at all." Qiao Yinyan. Mo Ying mumbled this name, "Why should I remember him?" Yiqing Luo saw that she had even remembered Qiao Yinyan's name and raised her slender brows as she asked with a smile, "Looks like Shadow's impression of Yinyan is rather deep. Because he always stares at me with a very annoying gaze." Mo Ying's answer was very straightforward. Looking at Mo Ying's expressionless face, Yiqing Luo rejoiced that she had scared Qiao Yinyan away earlier. Otherwise, how painful would it be for him to hear this sentence? "Shadow, let me ask you a question." Yiqing Luo placed both her hands on Mo Ying's shoulders and slightly bent down to meet her gaze. Mo Ying blinked her eyes. Her empty and lifeless eyes were extremely black. "In your memory, have you lost a certain period of memory?" Yiqing Luo asked seriously. Mo Ying blinked her empty eyes again. "Do you think that I have forgotten about Qiao Yinyan?" Yiqing Luo nodded calmly, "Yes, so, you really don't remember him, right?" "I don't have his memory." Mo Ying shook her head stiffly. "As for whether or not I lost my memory, I don't know." "You don't know?" This sentence made Yiqing Luo extremely surprised. Mo Ying replied, "My memory is very chaotic and I can't remember if I have lost any memory. But I really don't know Qiao Yinyan. How could a normal person's memory be chaotic?" Chapter 38-47. Looks like Mo Ying would become a puppet without a soul. There had to be a reason. Moreover, this reason might be related to Mo Ying's chaotic memories. If you want to clarify your relationship with Yin Yan, after you return to Nirvana realm, you can look for teacher Guiyu and ask him, he should know something. Yiqing Luo left the choice to herself. Mo Ying didn't reply and just stared at him with her lifeless eyes. No one knew what she was thinking. At this moment, Qiao family's housekeeper came over to invite Yiqing Luo and the rest to head to the main hall for their meal. This was the Qiao family's territory. The news of her waking up and Qiao Yinyan walking out of the courtyard would definitely reach Patriarch Qiao's ears very quickly. Family head Qiao's actions were quite fast. Yiqing Luo thought about it and accepted the invitation. If she were to wait for Dmo Xian to return, her imagination would run wild and she would be restless. Go to the main hall. It's more lively there, and it can also divert some attention. Anyway, when Dmo Xian returned, they could just grab anyone to ask and they would know where he was. The group followed the butler to the main hall of the Qiao family. Indeed, as Yiqing Luo had expected, a small banquet was set up in the main hall of the Qiao family. The long tables on both sides were filled with guests. Yiqing Luo gauged with her eyes. There were about 40 of them. When he saw Yiqing Luo and her entourage walking over, those people immediately stood up and respectfully cupped their hands towards them with smiles on their faces. "Madam D. Madam D. Madam D." Various voices affectionately called out to Yiqing Luo. The smile on his face, the respect in his tone. There was a hint of flattery that was hard to detect. Patriarch Qiao immediately went forward to welcome them. Lady Yi, Lady Di, come, this way please, this way please. Yi Qing Luo looked around. In the main seat of the main hall was a rectangular table. He counted the seats. It just so happened to be their position. Yi Qing Luo didn't stand on ceremony with them as she walked directly to the main seat and sat down. TSK. What kind of formation is this? Zhou Mo muttered softly. Yi Qing Luo shot a glance at Zhou Mo as her lips curled into a faint smile. These people are from various large powerhouses in the Earth domain. He had just looked around. There were many familiar faces present. They were all profound practitioners who had survived the auction. Ever since Patriarch Qiao sent the butler to invite them. Yi Qing Luo could roughly guess that the purpose of the invitation was probably to discuss about the auction. However, inviting so many people was beyond her expectations. Imperial Madam, please forgive me for taking the liberty to let these friends in. Qiao family head's temper had changed, and he seemed to be very calm. But the expression he shot towards Yi Qing Luo had betrayed his inner thoughts. Patriarch Qiao stared at her with a fiery gaze. From time to time, he would glance at his son, who was sitting quietly beside him. Clearly, he had not given up on the idea of pairing her up with Qiao Yinyan. Yi Qing Luo glanced at Ying from the corner of her eyes and then smiled as she shook her head. This is the Qiao residence. Whoever the Qiao family wants to receive is the Qiao family's right. Patriarch Qiao's smile froze. The smiles on the faces of the profound practitioners from the various great forces also froze. Since they came to the Qiao residence, their intentions were already very clear. Was Yi Qing Luo pretending not to understand, or did she really not understand? The atmosphere in the main hall was tense. Chapter 38-48. Qiao family's patriarch broke the deadlock. Various powerhouses cultivators naturally wouldn't continue to put on a stiff expression and make the atmosphere so stiff. One by one, they raised their wine cups and respectfully toasted towards Yi Qing Luo's direction as they expressed their gratitude. To these cultivators, Yi Qing Luo wasn't disgusted, but they were definitely not the same kind of people. But as the saying goes, don't slap a smiling face. These powerful cultivators from various powerhouses who were usually high up on the top were now putting on a smiling face to a junior like her. Yi Qing Luo wouldn't really rub her nose in front of them as her performance was too cold. To tell the truth, Yi Qing Luo herself was very clear. The main reason why these people were so polite to her was not because she had broken the auction's array, allowing everyone to survive, but because of Dmo Xian. She clearly saw that when she and the group of people entered the main hall, quite a number of gazes were wandering around her, searching for him. Yi Qing Luo understood everyone's thoughts. After all, the strong were revered. Everyone respected Dmo Xian, and she was rather proud. Her lips curled slightly, her smile was distant, not easy to get close to, but she wasn't rude. There's no need to thank me. The reason why I worked so hard is not just because of you. She stood up and down the wine in her cup in one gulp as she continued, if the array is not broken, all of us will die in the array, so I'm doing it for myself. Although that's the case, but Imperial Madam fought with the Palace of Darkness and almost lost her life. She even used her own blood to test the array and broke the array. These are all indisputable facts. One of the powerhouses who was seated in front cupped his fists and said, everything that Imperial Madam has done to break the array, we will remember it in our hearts and express our deep gratitude. Another cultivator continued. Immediately, there were other cultivators who started to praise her. The main hall instantly became noisy. Yi Qing Luo immediately raised her hand to stop everyone's bootlicking. Her smile remained unchanged and the expression on her face didn't change at all. thank you for your kindness. During the auction, I actually made it very clear that the reason why I risked my life was because I didn't want Palace of Darkness's evil plan to succeed. If you really want to thank me, then use your power to find the hidden forces of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Start this war with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness and win. That's enough. Yi Qing Luo's words made everyone's voices of thanks to stop abruptly. They all looked at each other. Regarding what the Abyss Palace had done, many forces had already put the Abyss Palace on their blacklist. After all, the other party was bullying him. If they didn't take some action, they would definitely be killed. Wouldn't the other party think that they were easy to bully? This point, even if Yi Qing Luo didn't mention it, they would also investigate the power of the Palace of Darkness. Their losses this time could be said to be half of the wings of the entire land. How could they let go of the Netherworld Palace? From the burning rage in everyone's eyes, Yi Qing Luo could tell what they were thinking. If the people of the land domain were willing to investigate the Palace of Darkness, no matter how deep the Palace of Gloomy Darkness hid, he would eventually reveal his foxtail. Currently, Yi Qing Luo wasn't worried that the secluded Darkness Palace would take advantage of the fact that the Earth Realm's vitality was severely damaged to swallow the Earth Realm. The commotion caused by the auction was too big. This had already attracted the attention of the historian of balance. Chapter 38-49. If secluded palace were to take action now, it would definitely attract the attention of the higher realms people. By then, whatever plan secluded palace wanted to carry out would definitely be difficult. What Imperial Madam said is right. Our three cities' common enemy is secluded palace. Our forces have suffered heavy losses because of secluded palace, so we must take revenge for this. Imperial Madam, don't worry. Even if you don't mention it, we will not let secluded palace off. That's right. I am absolutely irreconcilable with secluded palace. Everyone clenched their fists, venting their anger and hatred toward secluded palace. Yi Qing Luo didn't continue exchanging pleasantries with them and inciting them. Secluded palace's method in the auction. They had completely lost the hearts of the people in the Earth domain. Even now, when secluded palace wanted to recruit people in the Earth domain, no one would go over. Those who joined secluded palace in the auction, each and every one of them, died much worse than the others. Those who joined, those who wanted to betray, turned into blood mist and had their souls scattered. Those who didn't want to betray, were directly killed by those monsters in secluded palace who couldn't differentiate between friend and foe. It was simply insane to the extreme. Whoever wanted to join secluded palace was simply looking for death. Yi Qing Luo looked at everyone's infuriated looks as she slowly sat down. Her expression was still somewhat solemn. Suddenly, a fair and slender hand stretched out in front of her. Her jade-white fingers held a wine cup. The wine was swaying in the cup. Jun Qing's cold voice was heard by her ear, "Have a drink." Yi Qing Luo glanced sideways and met Jun Qing's cold expression. She smiled as she poured herself a full cup of wine, raised the wine cup and clinked it with hers. The two of them didn't say anything as they raised their heads at the same time and downed the wine in one gulp. When they put down the wine cup, Jun Qingwu propped her chin as her brows rose slightly as she looked at her indifferently. Why? Still thinking about secluded palace. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased tightly. I don't understand, why did secluded palace take such a huge risk to take action during the auction? She paused slightly and suddenly thought of something as she turned her body sideways to look at Jun Qingwu. During this period of time, have you found out any news about the mastermind of secluded palace? Jun Qingwu's expression darkened when she mentioned this point. She shook her head. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness is very cunning. The real mastermind is hidden too well. Currently, the only information we know is that person is definitely someone with a high position in the heaven realm. Or, it might be related to the God realm. Divine realm. Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips slightly, in the upper realm. Is there really a God realm? Although the three realms of the heaven-earth God realm were collectively known as the upper three realms. But what Yi Qing Luo heard were mostly from the earth realm and heaven realm. There were very, very few rumors about the God realm. It was said that after the divine emperor passed away 10,000 years ago, the divine world gradually disappeared from everyone's sight. Now, although there were still many legends in the divine world, there were also people who said that Dmo Xian came from the divine realm. However, it was impossible to ascertain whether the God realm still had true godlike existences. Chapter 3850. The Palace Lord of the Nether Palace on the Surface. In Yi Qing Luo's mind, an image of a black-robed figure with a black cloak covering his entire face appeared. Towards that Palace Lord of the Nether Palace. Yi Qing Luo's memory was still very deep. What made her most unforgettable was that Palace Lord's gaze towards her. Very strange. Very familiar. However, she was unable to recall where that sense of familiarity came from. Furthermore, that Palace Lord's actions made her puzzled and puzzled. Most importantly, she was sealed in the palace which was filled with evil qi by the real mastermind. It was also that Palace Lord who told Dmo Xian the correct location of the palace, which allowed Dmo Xian to find her in time. Who was the Palace Lord of the Nether Palace on the surface? Have you thought of any clues? Jun Qingwu saw Yi Qing Luo's grave expression and that half-squinted eyes, reflecting a piercingly cold ray. Yi Qing Luo regained her senses and met with Jun Qingwu's gaze which seemed to know everything. She was slightly stunned as she shook her head, nothing. Jun Qingwu only took a deep look at her and didn't continue to ask. Yi Qing Luo's eyelids drooped as her eyes turned deep and her slightly cold voice was piercingly cold. Nether Palace. Sooner or later I will personally destroy it. The two of them were discussing in a low voice. Various powerhouses cultivators had already expressed their attitude. They had set a common goal. To deal with the Nether Palace. After that, under Patriarch Qiao's instructions, they started to eat and drink. Many powerhouses cultivators tried to find all sorts of topics to talk to Yi Qing Luo. But Yi Qing Luo's attitude was very calm. Alienated, but there was nothing wrong with it. She said that she was high and mighty, totally looking down on them. But Yi Qing Luo's tone and attitude towards them was still considered polite. She said that she wanted to get to know them, to have more friends and more paths. But Yi Qing Luo's attitude was extremely alienated, with no intention to continue to develop a future with them. This made everyone feel strange and at the same time unable to get on her good side. They were stuck here, neither up nor down, which was indeed uncomfortable. Just like this, it continued for about 2 incense sticks worth of time. Suddenly, a howl was heard from outside the main hall. Hey hey hey. Why are you dragging me? Who are you? What do you want? That howl was quite tragic. Then, the orderly voices of the Qiao family's guards could be heard. But it couldn't stop the howl from getting closer. Everyone in the main hall heard this voice. Patriarch Qiao stood up first and was about to rush out. Soon after, a black shadow was thrown into the main hall. Patriarch Qiao subconsciously raised his hand and slashed over. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were sharp and when she saw that black shadow being thrown over, her eyes changed. The glower flame fan in her hands moved and a hurricane was formed, sweeping the black shadow towards her. Qiao family's head slashed the air and saw the direction where the black shadow turned. Just as he was about to ask Yi Qing Luo, the black figure that was thrown and rolled on the ground a few times. Then, holding onto his waist, he climbed up while shouting, "Ouch!" He wore a green robe, and his hair was a little messy due to the torment. He raised his hand and rubbed his face that was hurt from the fall. His handsome face was very upright. The most eye-catching thing was that pair of dark golden eyes, sparkling with a brilliant luster which made one unable to shift their gaze away. "Pay, boss, pay." After seeing that Black Shadow's face clearly, Patriarch Chiao was stunned. Chapter 38:51. What on earth was going on? Pei Xing rubbed his own face and was still drawing in cold air from the pain. As he touched his ears, he stood up and cried out to Yi Qing Luo, "Ah Luo, save me. There's a crazy old man who kept dragging me to look for you, it hurts so much." Yi Qing Luo noticed that his face and ears had turned red from the pinching. Before she could say a word. Immediately following that, a gush of horrifying aura gushed into the main hall's main door. The surrounding pressure instantly dropped to the lowest point. Many cultivators' expressions turned gloomy as they held onto their weapons alertly as their sharp eyes stared sharply at the main hall's main door. Could it be that the secluded palace had made a comeback? Thinking of this, everyone became even more alert. Even the aura on his body had become much more powerful. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she immediately stood up and crossed the long table, pulling Pei Xing behind her as she straightened her back and looked towards the main door. Pei Xing said. There was an old man looking for her. He specifically mentioned her name to look for her. Who could it be? The aura in the main hall surged even more ferociously. Wave after wave of airwaves. Yi Qing Luo felt that the surrounding air seemed to have congealed. Just at this moment, a figure hurried over from the door and entered. Just in a blink of an eye, that figure had already appeared in the middle of the main hall. He stood face to face with Yi Qing Luo. The distance between the two of them was not more than 10 steps. That was a white-haired old man dressed in brocade robes, but he had a dignified demeanor. His entire body was in flames. The minute he appeared, he gave everyone a huge sense of oppression. The profound practitioners of the various major forces immediately felt a great pressure bearing down on them. It was as if their bodies were being pressed to the ground by an invisible force. This kind of feeling. Yi Qing Luo was also affected. Her slender brows creased as she met the old man's sharp and imposing eyes. Who are you? She opened her mouth and asked coldly. The old man's gaze was fixed on Yi Qing Luo, as though he was inspecting some goods as he sized Yi Qing Luo up. Following that, his brows creased tightly, as though he was despising her. Yi Qing Luo. 1. Face. Stunned. Force. Who on earth was this old man? What was with that look of disdain? You are Yi Qing Luo? The old man asked calmly. Yi Qing Luo realized that this old man might not be from the earth domain. She didn't answer and just looked at him warily. The old man saw that Yi Qing Luo was ignoring him. He stared fiercely at Pei Xing as he shouted sternly, "The Yi Qing Luo you mentioned, is it this woman?" Pei Xing was hollered at and his entire body shrank behind Yi Qing Luo. At the same time, he touched his ears. How can a man like you hide behind a woman's back? Our Huangfu clan doesn't have a man like you. When the old man saw Pei Xing's actions, he couldn't help but frown and shout at him sternly. Yi Qing Luo caught onto a crucial point. Huangfu clan. This old man, someone from the Huangfu clan. In other words, people from the heaven realm. This Huangfu family, wasn't it one of the heaven realm's 4 great families, Qiao Jin's family? Why would he come to the land? It seemed like the target was still looking for her. Yi Qing Luo expressed that she was in a daze. You are from the Huangfu family. The old man glanced coldly at Yi Qing Luo and shifted his gaze onto Pei Xing, who was behind her. Stand upright and upright. Pei Xing was so scared that he quivered. He immediately stood out from behind Yiqing Luo. And he even stood up straight. After he stood up, he then realized what he had done. Chapter 38:52. This old man. What did he mean by that? Not only Yiqing Luo was stunned. The surrounding cultivators from various powerhouses were all stunned as well. All of them stared at the old man in unison, guessing his intention for coming. In the old man's eyes, it seemed as though he couldn't see anyone else. After seeing Pei Xing stand up straight, that solemn and heavy expression on his face eased up a little. But the gaze which he shot towards Pei Xing was still that little bit of disdain and displeasure. But this disdain, as compared to the disdain which Yiqing Luo saw in the old man's eyes, was absolutely not the same kind of emotion. So, how much did this old man despise her? Just as she was thinking, that old man's vision shifted onto Yiqing Luo. Following that, his white brows creased as he raised his chin and opened his mouth. Yiqing Luo, I heard that. You're the one who saved this lad, and even activated this lad's concealed Huangfu bloodline. Yiqing Luo controlled herself, ignoring the old man's arrogant tone. From the old man's aura, if they were to fight, she might be at a disadvantage. Furthermore, what did that old man say earlier? Activated Huangfu bloodline. Huangfu. Yiqing Luo suddenly recalled Qiao Jin's pair of golden eyes. Wait a minute. She recalled it. Huangfu family. Their unique point was, Huangfu family's people's eyes were all golden. Right. Golden. She finally recalled, when she saw Pei Xing's outburst, his eyes flashed a dark golden glow, and where did that familiar feeling come from? Because previously, Qiao Jin's eyes had also turned golden. But the color of Pei Xing's eyes was very different from Qiao Jin's golden color. It was also different from the usual color of Huangfu family's eyes. If she didn't remember wrongly, those Huangfu family's people, other than Qiao Jin who the Huangfu family had recognized as the successor, all the younger generation only had one golden eye. One gold, one ink. But Pei Xing's eye color. Not only was it that kind of dark golden color, but both eyes revealed a dark golden glow. But this old man in front of her said, Pei Xing's Huangfu bloodline had been activated? What was going on? Looking at Yiqing Luo's puzzled expression, the displeasure and disdain on the old man's face became even more obvious. He walked towards Yiqing Luo in big strides, his footsteps were steady and his footsteps brought along the wind, his imposing manner was overbearing. As he approached, Yiqing Luo didn't evade. Instead, he frowned and met the old man's gaze. Then, he stared into the old man's eyes, searching for traces of gold. Facing Yiqing Luo's piercing gaze, the old man's brows furrowed even tighter, and he shouted sternly, Little girl, I'm asking you a question. This voice was mixed with Xian energy. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but dig her buzzing ears. I don't even know who you are, why should I answer a stranger's question? The old man's face darkened. Apparently he had never met someone like Yiqing Luo who wasn't afraid of his prestige and was so rude to him. His eyes stared intently at Yiqing Luo. His sharp eyes occasionally flashed with a golden luster. Yiqing Luo caught it. Indeed, someone from the Huangfu family. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she shot a glance at Pei Xing's direction, and continued to speak. You specially came over from Heaven Realm, because you sense Pei Xing's Huangfu bloodline, and wanted to bring him back. Chapter 38:53. As he spoke, he looked at the old man again, and, who on earth are you? The minute you saw me, you dragged me here and clamored to look for Ah Luo, what's going on? Hearing Pei Xing's words, the old man frowned. You don't even know your own identity. Me? Pei Xing was even more confused. What identity? What are you guys talking about? The old man's face turned even darker. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and stopped Pei Xing from asking any further questions as she directly opened her mouth. Xing had grown up in the Earth realm since young and his parents are from the Earth realm. If he's really from the Huangfu family, then you shouldn't be asking him but your Huangfu family yourself. Why on earth did you allow Xing to wander around in the Earth realm? Being criticized by a junior, the old man couldn't keep his face. His face sunk as he shouted angrily, I will investigate this matter clearly. I don't need you to point fingers. So, you want to bring Xing to the heaven realm? Yiqing Luo asked. Yiqing Luo and the old man's exchange. His words entered the ears of all the profound practitioners of the major forces. That was to set off a huge wave. Heaven realm. This master, is he from the heaven realm? Didn't you hear, the imperial madam said. Huangfu family. Huangfu family. One of the 4 heavenly families in the heaven realm. Other than the Huangfu family, which is one of the 4 heavenly families, is there a second Huangfu family? Why would the Huangfu family from the heaven realm come to the earth realm? And those cultivators in Without Embroiling City heard that Yiqing Luo wanted to ask about the Huangfu family and bring Pei Xing to the heaven realm. They were even more shocked. What was the relationship between Pei Xing and the Huangfu family? Why did it sound like Pei Xing was from the Huangfu family? This piece of heavy news, one after another, made everyone dumbfounded. The surrounding people's discussion made Pei Xing nervous. His eyeballs rolled, looking at the old man and Yiqing Luo from time to time. He had a stomach full of questions to ask. But looking at the atmosphere between the old man and Yiqing Luo, he swallowed back the words that were on the tip of his tongue. Young lady, in that case, this young lad is indeed you, and you've stimulated his Huangfu blood meridians. Old man imitated Yiqing Luo's tone, as he countered with a question. Yiqing Luo was just about to reply. Then, he threw another sentence that almost made her explode. Since you've activated this kid's Huangfu bloodline, I'll make the decision. From now on, you'll be this kid's wife. When you return to the Huangfu clan, the 2 of you will get married. These words shocked the profound practitioners of the various great powers so much that they almost jumped up. Grandpa, do you know what you are saying? Do you know who the girl opposite you is? If Lord Dizun were to hear this, not to mention the Huangfu clan, even the entire heaven realm would be turned upside down by Dizun. However, the old man didn't have the ability to read minds, so he naturally didn't know what everyone was thinking. That's it. Now, the 2 of you will follow me to the celestial realm. The old man looked as if it was a matter of course. Yiqing Luo and Pei Xing looked at each other in dismay. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched a few times. Just as she was about to open her mouth to clarify things with the old man, she heard a few anxious voices coming from outside the main hall. Grandpa. Grandpa. Don't mess around. Immediately following that, she saw 3 figures, flying over. In a blink of an eye, they scurried to the old man's side. Chapter 38:54. The woman ran to the old man's side. Grandpa, this won't do, she can't, shut up. The old man's expression turned cold. He put his hands behind his back in a dignified and domineering manner. I've made up my mind. Their marriage has been decided just like that. The young lady's face was pale as she looked anxiously at Yiqing Luo's direction and stretched out her hand to pull the old man, wanting to say something. The old man impatiently shook off the woman. The other 2 men also followed up. Grandfather, Feng Yan doesn't mean that, you don't know, Yiqing Luo she is. I don't care what she is. Since she was the woman who had awakened that brat's bloodline, she was the one destined for that brat. I've already decided on this matter. All you need to do is to prepare for their return to the Huangfu clan. The two men's faces darkened even further. The woman opened her mouth a few times, but before she could say anything, the old man stopped her. It was Yiqing Luo who was slightly stunned when she saw the three of them appearing. Huangfu, Fengyan, and the other two young masters of the Huangfu clan. Weren't these three the three from the Huangfu clan that he had met in the Nirvana realm? It was also the time before Qiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi confirmed their relationship. They actually came. They seemed to be calling that old man Grandpa, Grandfather. In other words, this old man was Qiao Jin's grandfather. You know them. Hearing Yiqing Luo calling out his granddaughters and grandsons' names, the old man's brows creased as he looked suspiciously at Huangfu Fengyan and the rest. Huangfu Fengyan's beautiful face revealed a trace of panic. Grandfather. To be able to make eldest young master Huangfu, third young master, and fourth young miss call you grandfather, I presume you're the Huangfu clan's patriarch, Huangfu Zhentian, right? After knowing the other party's identity, the sharpness in Yiqing Luo's eyes had already been restrained. Although he wasn't too sure what had happened between Qiao Jin and the Huangfu clan, he wasn't too sure. He wasn't too sure why Qiao Jin would leave the Huangfu clan. However, the other party was still Qiao Jin's grandfather. As Qiao Jin's brother, she naturally wouldn't be too overbearing. The old man, who was Huangfu Zhentian's white brows rose as the gaze he shot at Yiqing Luo was filled with a different kind of scrutiny. Looks like you're rather familiar with the people from the Huangfu family. In Huangfu Zhentian's eyes, Yiqing Luo was just a small cultivator from the earth realm. Their Huangfu clan had always resided in the heaven realm and rarely appeared in the lower realm. How did Yiqing Luo know Huangfu family's young master and young miss? Furthermore, he could tell. Those three people from Huangfu family also recognized Yiqing Luo. Huangfu Zhentian immediately waved his hand. Since we've known each other for a long time, then it's even easier to decide. Now, we will return to the Huangfu clan and arrange the marriage for you two. The three from the Huangfu clan were so shocked that their faces turned pale. Just as he was about to speak, Peixing finally reacted, and his eyes widened as he looked at Huangfu Zhentian with a dumbfounded expression. What? You want me to marry Luo? Me? Luo? He repeated in disbelief. Huangfu family's rules are as such: if it's a lady who stimulated your Huangfu bloodline, then, this lady will be your destined person. Huangfu Zhentian spoke in a matter-of-fact tone. Moreover, aren't you very reliant on that lady? I. Peixing's face flushed red from Huangfu Zhentian's words. Marry Luo. Chapter 38:55. If the Overlord heard it, his little life would be lost. Peixing's mental state was on the verge of collapse. How old are you? You're getting married and you're still shy. This matter has been decided. Do you have any objections? Huangfu Zhentian looked at Peixing with disdain and displeasure. As though there wasn't a single part of Peixing that caught his eye. Following that, he swept his gaze towards the three people who were surrounding him, who obviously had something to say. Being stared at by Huangfu Zhentian's domineering and dignified gaze. The three of them wanted to speak but didn't dare to. Just as the entire main hall had sunk into a strange atmosphere. A cold and dignified voice brought along an oppressive pressure as it poured over, towards old Master Huangfu's words. I have an objection. At the same time, there was a light panting but a loud and clear voice. I don't agree. Two voices were heard at the same time. It instantly attracted everyone's attention. Huangfu Zhentian felt that the dignified voice was very familiar. But momentarily, he couldn't recall when he had heard it before. On the contrary, it was the three people from the Huangfu family who were beside him who were so scared that they started trembling. Outside the main hall, a tall figure walked into it. The first thing that entered their eyes was that luxurious and pressing purple robe. Following that, it was that oppressive and sharp aura that was emitted from his entire body. When people looked at his absolutely magnificent face, they couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines. They were forced by this invisible aura until they didn't dare to look straight at him. He walked over slowly. His brows were like swords, his dark eyes like a lake. As he got closer step by step, he was like an unsheathed sharp blade, emitting an incomparably cold frost. Cold and domineering to the extreme. Huangfu Jintian's pupils suddenly constricted. His entire mood became stiff and solemn. Overlord. Huangfu Jintian stared at the man who was walking over. I heard that there's news of Overlord in the Earth realm. I've not expected that Overlord is really here. He paused as his vision shot towards Yiqing Luo and Pei Xing, who were stunned on the spot as his voice deepened. I wonder if Overlord has any objection towards me. I have no objection towards you. Dmo Xian had already walked closer, and that domineering and imposing aura seemed as though it was going to destroy everything in the surroundings. As he approached, Huangfu Jintian felt an enormous pressure pressing down on him. Ben Zun has a big objection to your decision. The man's deep and husky voice said word by word. Huangfu Jintian was shocked by his sudden approach to the point of taking a step back. You. Huangfu Jintian's brows creased tightly as he stared at Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian took a direct stride, passing Huangfu Jintian as he walked right in front of Yiqing Luo. You want to ask why, right? Dmo Xian's thin lips curled up frivolously as he suddenly stretched out his hand and wrapped it around Yiqing Luo's slender waist, pressing the young lady into his arms. Then, he glanced sideways. His eyes, which were as deep as a lake, were filled with a cold light. Why do you think so? Huangfu Jintian was immediately stunned. He looked at Dmo Xian in shock, and looked at the hand which was wrapped around Yiqing Luo's waist. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Was he seeing things? Was he seeing things? Why was the Overlord hugging Yiqing Luo? Dmo Xian's appearance made everyone break out in cold sweat for Huangfu Jintian. Chapter 3856. Dmo Xian shot a chilly glance over. His thin lips curled up as he spoke with a smile which didn't look like a smile. If you had that kind of thinking, do you think you would be able to live till now? That gaze was so cold that Pei Xing couldn't help but shrink back as his face was filled with terror. Damn! He was so wrong that he wanted to cry outright. The person who insisted on matching him with Yiqing Luo was that old man. What did it have to do with him? One, he was also a person who got shot while lying down all right. Dmo Xian retracted his gaze, and when his gaze fell onto Yiqing Luo, the look in his eyes became gentle and affectionate. Yiqing Luo, who was brought into the man's arms, naturally wrapped her arms around the man's waist as she raised her head and looked at Dmo Xian. Are you tired? Are you hurt? Not tired. Dmo Xian bent over and planted a kiss on her forehead as he spoke in a warm voice. Don't worry, there's nothing in this realm which can hurt me. Seeing that his expression wasn't unwell, Yiqing Luo then put on a straight face as her fingers hooked and pinched his waist fiercely. Who asked you to not rest properly, taking the opportunity when I'm asleep to do other things behind my back? Can't you just rest properly? He knew how to love her and take care of her body. Why didn't he know how to love her and take care of her? Hearing the young lady's worried words, Dmo Xian's brows flashed a trace of pampering smile. As he bent his head close to the young lady's face, that pair of black obsidian-like pupils were gradually tainted with a dark and deep luster. It seemed like there was some hidden emotion which needed to be harmonious. He leaned close to her ear as his voice was very hoarse, carrying an obvious meaning. You know how I can rest well. Yi Qing Luo. Her face turned black. Damn it, she didn't know. Didn't want to know. Yi Qing Luo rolled her eyes at him as she raised her hand and pushed the man's broad and muscular body away. Scram. The interaction between the two. In everyone's eyes, it was so sweet that it made their teeth ache. Especially when they saw Yi Qing Luo had no qualms as she directly pushed Dmo Xian away and arrogantly asked him to scram. They were all stunned. This was probably. You must be the first person who dares to tell Lord Dizun to get lost, right? But looking at Dizun's sweet smile and tenderness, Dizun could not help but laugh. Alright, the reason why the imperial madam could be so daring and fearless was because the overlord doted on her. Once again, the profound practitioners of the various great powers felt it deeply. The love between Dizun and Di Furen. The profound practitioners were aware of this a long time ago. But, only now did Huangfu Jintian seem to have understood something. He was completely dumbfounded. His eyes widened as he stared in shock at the two people hugging in front of him. Overlord, and Yi Qing Luo, the two of them. Huangfu Jintian couldn't believe his eyes. He immediately turned his head and glared at the three people behind him. The three from the Huangfu clan were pale, and their bodies were trembling slightly. When he met Huangfu Jintian's gaze, the three of them subconsciously averted their gazes. Huangfu Jintian immediately understood. The three of you already knew. Huangfu Fengyan bit her lower lip as she spoke softly. Grandfather, we wanted to tell you. But you didn't give us a chance to speak. Every time they opened their mouths, they were blocked by Huangfu Jintian. What could they do? They were in despair too. Chapter 3857. Huangfu trio lowered their heads. They felt resentful from being scolded but didn't dare to voice it out. Huangfu Jintian looked at the surrounding gazes as he felt embarrassed. He cleared his throat and tried his best to maintain a serious expression. Following that, he pointed the spearhead towards Pei Xing. Stinky brat. Since it has nothing to do with Yi Qing. Miss Yi, why didn't you say so earlier? Pei Xing had a dazed look. After Huangfu Jintian scolded Pei Xing, he cupped his hands towards Dmo Xian. It's a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. Dmo Xian shot him a glance with a smile which didn't look like a smile as his thin lips curled into a frivolous smile, with a hint of coldness. Huangfu Jintian felt even more embarrassed. Yi Qing Luo pushed Dmo Xian as she tidied up her collar and opened her mouth to break the deadlock. Huangfu family's old master. Why did he come all the way to the Earth realm? She paused slightly as she pointed at Pei Xing. According to Ah Xing's memory, he has a father and mother and he grew up in the Earth realm since young. Old master's trip here is to grab hold of Ah Xing, talking about this and that, deciding on Ah Xing's marriage. Have you ever thought about Ah Xing's thoughts? Huangfu Jintian's open mouth slowly closed. The expression on his face slowly turned solemn and grave. Yi Qing Luo didn't wait for him to continue speaking. His gaze fell on the slender figure outside the main hall's door. Also, the old master made a mess of matchmaking without saying a word. Not only does my Ah Xian have objections, but I'm afraid that, and Ah Xing also have objections. Following Yi Qing Luo's words, everyone looked towards the main door. They saw a delicate lady standing at the door. The ice blue long dress made the lady look lively and lovely. When Pei Xing saw that person, his dark golden eyes flashed as he suddenly stood up from the ground and looked over in a daze. Little sister. Brother Xing. The lady pursed her lips as she called out. Following that, she lifted her leg and walked into the main hall. Wasn't this Lady Gu Zixi? Pei Xing immediately went up and grabbed Gu Zixi wrist. Why are you here? Gu Zixi raised her head as her beautiful eyes looked at Pei Xing's face without blinking. She took a deep breath as her pearly white teeth bit her lower lip. I came here with the overlord. Pei Xing wanted to say something. Huang Fuzhentian suddenly pushed Pei Xing away and sized Gu Zixi up from head to toe. The more he looked, the deeper his frown became. After that, he took a few glances at Yi Qing Luo's direction. You're the lady who followed the overlord and shouted that she had objections. Huang Fuzhentian naturally heard the lady's voice that rang out together with Dmo Xian earlier. It was only because he saw Di Zun. He didn't care about the objection that the woman shouted. But now, he saw this woman. Then, he saw the atmosphere between the woman and Pei Xing. Huang Fuzhentian furrowed his brows. Lord Di Zun has an objection because of Miss Yi. Little miss, what about you? Gu Zixi's eyes flashed when she was called out. Under the pressure of Huang Fuzhentian's aura, even her delicate body was slightly trembling. However, when she glanced at Pei Xing, she felt a chill run down her spine. However, she stubbornly raised her head and her beautiful eyes met Huang Fuzhentian's. It's because of Brother Sheng. Her crisp voice paused after every word, without the slightest hesitation. Her voice was like thunder as it landed heavily on Pei Xing's heart. It was like a huge hammer, smashing down heavily. In his heart, he roughly guessed something. His entire person instantly became nervous. His heartbeats suddenly sped up. Just at this moment, you're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.